Operation Social Justice, mission accomplished. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Gamer Crafting Podcast. I think this is episode 41, 42 of the podcast, and today I'm going to be talking about the behind the scenes of what went down with Operation Social Justice now that almost everyone is done. There are still a few people that are taking orders or have patterns for charity, but for the most part, my involvement is done. I have tallied the numbers. This is the announcement of the numbers. And so I feel like I can finally tell you everything that went down behind the scenes with Operation Social Justice. So we, Gamer Crafting Yarns, we had 3 different yarns. We had the Fuck Cancer yarn, which benefits Cancer Research UK. We had the Proud Snowflake yarn, which benefits the Albert Kennedy Trust, who help homeless LGBTQ youth. And we also had Social Justice Banshee, which benefits Refuge, which is a women's shelter in the UK. Social Justice Banshee was a last minute addition. I was originally only going to do the 2 colorways, and the day before it launched, I decided to do this other colorway, this green, because I'd been thinking about it for a while, and I decided, you know, now's the time. Louise Tilbrook, who is a fabulous designer, had been asking me for a while to do a Social Justice Banshee yarn based on, I think, some Instagram messages or some emails that she got. And I promised her that I would, and I just kept putting it off. So finally, I decided, you know, now's the time. I'm going to just go ahead and do it. So let me just have a look at my notes here. So the Fuck Cancer yarn raised £65 for Cancer Research UK. Proud Snowflake raised £66 from the yarn sales and another £50 from the Operation Social Justice swag, which is available on Redbubble and will be just kind of in perpetuity, and it'll be forever that those sales donate the Albert Kennedy Trust. That was another £50 from the Redbubble for the Albert Kennedy Trust. And Social Justice Banshee, so like the last minute addition that I decided to put up, that I decided to dye the day before Operation Social Justice launched, as if I didn't have anything else to do. That raised a whopping £188.60 for Refuge UK, which I'm actually really thrilled about, because Operation Social Justice happened kind of the week before everything really took a turn, at least here in the UK, with regards to coronavirus, and lots of people are going to be needing to be using Refuge UK services now, so I'm kind of glad that that was the one that raised the most money. Not that the others aren't worthy charities, but that one I know for sure has been really, really looking for donations and support in this time. So we raised a total of £369.60, which is equivalent to about $492. So I added that to the total, which I just went ahead and I added everything up this morning just before this podcast. And we raised over $14,000, which I think is pretty rad overall, with everybody reporting in, or with all the reports that I got anyway, over $14,000. However, only about half the participants who participated reported in with how much they managed to raise, and I realize that that's almost certainly because everybody is very preoccupied with dealing with COVID-19, however they need to be dealing with it, whether it's, you know, they're having to homeschool their kids or take care of people, or they're having to do grocery runs or try and figure out homeschooling or working from home. Like, everybody's just kind of a bit scattered right now. So absolutely no shade to anyone who forgot or didn't get the chance to report in or didn't realize that the reporting in was open. I did send an email to all participants, but who knows, things can get caught in spam and whatever. So only about half the participants reported in. So I'm gonna imagine we actually raised higher than that, but it's impossible for me to know. And I don't really want to speculate how much it could have been either. Who knows? So I just kind of wanted to talk about the amount of work that went into Operation Social Justice. So I said in the launch video, I said it had started where, you know, I was feeling frustrated with parts of the yarn community and this kind of weird, almost performative cruelty that has taken hold in certain circles, where it's this kind of like, haha, I'm gonna, you know, drink your tears, you snowflake, and like just this really like nastiness. And banding about social justice warrior because people are trying to push for a better, more inclusive community, which is just, it's just gross. And it was bothering me so much. It's one of those things, you know, where you start to think about it, and the more you think about it, the more it festers, and the more upset you get, and the angrier you get, until you're like, no, I have to do something. Either I have to do something positive, or I'm about to go off on a whole bunch of people, and I feel like that's not really going to help. So I decided on Twitter, I said something like, I'm thinking about doing a line of social justice yarns and having it be donated to charity. And Lilith of Old Maiden Aunt Yarns said, well, why don't we make it a collaborative thing that everybody can take part in? And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. So I, you know, started kind of figuring out what that might look like. And I thought that we would get maybe 20 participants, because calling something Operation Social Justice isn't exactly the least controversial thing that has ever happened, right? It's a little bit charged. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's a little bit kind of in your face with like, this is who I am and this is what I stand for, which obviously I think is important. If you know me at all, you'll know that it's kind of impossible for me to keep my big mouth shut about things. In any case, so I thought we'd get maybe like 20 participants. So I was astounded when we started getting more participants. So basically what happened is, once I decided, yes, this is going to be collaborative, it was like this weird fire in my gut feeling, like we could be holding lightning in a bottle feeling, this could be something really good, or this could be something that's gonna absolutely completely blow up in my face, and I'll look at this in a year or so and be like, well, that was a disaster. Why did I ever do that? The first thing I had to do was to get the word out and kind of let people know what we were doing. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, trying to get people to share the post, because Instagram algorithms are notoriously not great, and certainly not great with things that are politically progressive, shall we say. Then I had to create the sign-up form, which I created and I put up on a page on my website. And so that's fine. Creating a sign-up form is not really that big a deal. In retrospect, I should have used maybe a Google form instead of just a random contact form, because it ended up creating a lot of extra work for me. So, lesson learned. If I was ever going to do this again, that's a big lesson learned for sure. So I created the sign-up form, and then I started researching, well, how are we going to actually manage to showcase everyone who's wanting to take part? How are we going to manage to get everybody's stuff in one central location? I mean, yes, there's the hashtag on Instagram, but I wasn't sure if that would end up being used in a way that like wasn't necessarily relevant to what we were trying to achieve. And so I was a bit worried about that, but I was also like, well, we don't have a team of employees. We don't have a lot of extra like labor bandwidth, to use a annoying business term. It's just me and it's just Sarah. We don't have a lot of extra time or money to be able to like fund or finance things. So I found this sort of plugin. It's not a plugin, it's a platform that pulls images in from Instagram. But I knew that we'd have to have some sort of moderation tool to make sure that there wasn't one person just posting 20 times, to make sure that their stuff was seen the most, or to make sure that people weren't using the hashtag to kind of, you know, mess with us a little bit, which is not out of the realm of possibility. So I finally settled on one, and it was a paid service, so we did have to pay for that service. I've taken it off the website now, but it was a paid service, and we paid for that out of our own pockets. Obviously, we were happy to do so because that was important. But I'm just letting you know, like, this is everything that kind of went down behind the scenes. So once everybody signed up, I think we got like over 200 submissions, but some of them were people just saying, oh, I would just like to be informed when all of this goes live. They weren't people that were wanting to participate with either selling things or a raffle or whatever. So I had to create this spreadsheet when putting in their first names, their business names, what charities they were raising money for, and whether they were going to raffle or whether they were going to sell things, and what they were selling or raffling. So I would know when looking through posts what I was looking for. And then I had I had a link for people to sign up to an email list, and it was completely separate from my marketing list just to make sure there was no, like, I used a completely different platform to my marketing list just to make sure, 100% sure that there would be no accidental crossover. I didn't want anyone to end up signing up to my marketing list and thinking that it was just some big marketing ploy, because that's not what it was meant to be about. So it was a completely different platform. I usually use MailChimp for my regular marketing emails when I'm telling people that there's yarn loots or there's a sale or a free shipping code or whatever, and I used a completely different platform, which is called Sendinblue, for the Operation Social Justice stuff, just to make sure there would be no accidental crossover. So I asked people to sign up for this email, and I sent out an email being like, hey everybody, the page is up, here's all the information, this is when we're launching, etc., etc. And then I started getting reports that it was actually the weekend of Unravel, I think. And I was talking to people who were like, hey, Ange, I haven't heard from you. What's going on? And I was like, oh, I sent the email out like, almost a week ago, and found out that a load of these emails ended up in people's spam inboxes, which is a thing that happens when you're sending from an email client, basically. It's just a thing that can happen. It's obnoxious when you're trying to keep tabs on people and you're trying to let people know, but there's not like loads that I can specifically do about it. So after I discovered that loads of people hadn't gotten the email basically saying, hey, thanks for your interest, here's all of the information, etc., etc., I had to go through the spreadsheet that I had made with everybody's email address and name and business name and etc., and I had to email everybody individually one by one. So there was like 100 plus individual email, or 180, plus individual emails that I sent out basically saying, hey, thank you for your interest. Here's the information that you'll need in order to participate. Like, thank you so much. Links, etc., information, yada yada. So then as things started sort of kicking off and people were starting to share, sneak peeks of what they were going to be making, so on and so forth, I wanted to kind of boost things as much as I could. So I was trying to share in my stories on Instagram. I was trying to like retweet stuff that got tweeted at me, on Twitter. I was trying to make sure that everything like stayed on top of. And in addition to that, because this Instagram hashtag platform that we decided to use, because I did want to make sure that we had moderation for that, to make sure that we'd be able to just like pick the relevant posts to put up on the website, it also meant that I had to go and moderate that every day. So it was like 5, 10, 15 minutes morning and afternoon of going through and making sure relevant pictures made it onto the website, and that duplicates or posts of people saying I'm excited for this, without it necessarily being people sharing what they were going to be making or whatever, didn't make it onto the website because that wasn't necessarily relevant to people trying to find things. So obviously I had to dye my own yarns. I told you that I ended up dyeing the Social Justice Banshee one the day before, which was a Saturday, and I was wandering around and I was having a lot of anxiety about the launch, and I was really worried about it. And so I dyed some yarn because that's quite a therapeutic thing sometimes, especially, y'all know it turned out green, so the mood that I was in. I needed some comforting colors. I needed colors that I like. The others I did, I think, a week or 10 days-ish beforehand, within a couple of days of each other. I know I for sure did the Proud Snowflake one first, which is like the darkish purples, and I did the other one, which I waited a while until we decided on a name. We did decide on the Fuck Cancer name due to some bad news that we got about someone that we care about. Again, I'm not going to share like who that is because it's not my place to be sharing somebody else's like medical information. But rest assured, it's like affected us in a very like deep way, and that's why we chose that. And I'm not going to go too far into that because, like I said, it's kind of quite a deep personal thing. But that's like, if you just think that that was another layer of things that were going on in the background for us personally while we were trying to make all of this happen, it just kind of made for a bit of a stressful time. So another thing that we were having to do is make sure that we had like the scheduling right. We wanted to make sure that it was on the same day and the same time, make sure everybody knows about time zones, and try to do things like extra Instagram lives on the weekends, trying to do extra podcasts before and during to let people know that this is what we were going to be doing, and letting people know the information and where they could find more information if they wanted to participate, or where they could shop if they wanted to support people that way. So it was a whole thing. But these things obviously all take time. I did reach out to a number of media contacts, but there wasn't really any pickup of it. I think partially because things with COVID-19 were starting to become more serious, and the media as a whole was kind of focused more on getting information out about that. But also I feel like a lot of media outlets that were really quick to jump in when there was drama in the yarn community, they're not interested in hearing about a collaborative positive action. They'd rather just be able to report about how ridiculous it is that there's drama in the yarn community, which is infantilizing, and it's also really undermining the seriousness of the issues of wanting to create a more inclusive, a better diverse community that's supportive of people and isn't dismissive of people's concerns. But hey, drama, am I right? So that didn't really go anywhere, which I was disappointed about. But like I said, the timing of this was really awkward. I mean, we weren't to know when we decided this that COVID-19 was going to end up becoming a pandemic. There was obviously reports about things that were happening in China at the time, but it hadn't jumped really very seriously. Well, I guess Italy was the next hotspot, and then so on and so forth. So we had no way of really knowing how serious it was going to become. So maybe if we had known, we would have waited, but then if we'd waited, it might have not gone ahead at all. So it's just kind of a, you never know what you're going to end up jumping into kind of situation. Another thing that went into the planning was just emails, like not even just the individual emails that I had to send out, which was a big chunk of time. It took me a lot of hours over several days to make sure all that got done. But just emails back and forth with people on a daily basis who needed more information, people who were wanting to change what charities they were supporting, people who had to drop out for family reasons, so on and so forth. And I'm not like shading anyone for sending me emails. They were necessary emails to planning and organizing this amazing collaborative charity effort, but it was a lot of emails, and it's just a lot of emails that I had to deal with. Usually if you get an email, it's going to be from me and not from Sarah. We kind of have our roles defined in different ways, and it's usually me who deals with emails, even if it's, Sarah saying, oh, I think we should do this, or what have you. So the emails took a lot of time. So obviously, once the end of March hit and I opened up the self-reporting form on, I did create a Google form for that this time. I was smart this time. Created a Google form and for people to self-report, but because there was a lot of different people worldwide participating, there was a lot of different currencies, and Google form, when you're creating just a simple sum function, doesn't super like when you have lots of different currencies. I can just feel in my bones there's going to be somebody who jumps into the comments and they're like, oh, there's this really clever hack to do this where you do magic keyboard work and then make it all work. But I honestly, like, my skills with Google Forms or, Google Sheets and Excel are like minimal at best. So I went through, and all the people who were in a different currency, I converted it using a current currency converter. And so that was probably about half of them were in a different currency to pounds, which is obviously what we work with as we live here. So I had to go through and I had to convert all of that. So over half the people had a different currency, so I had to go through and convert them all into one currency so that I could have it in the form as one currency and get an accurate sum of what everybody raised. And then obviously add in our own tallies and make sure that we knew what we were doing. And I guess the final thing that I had to do for Operation Social Justice is this video. So hello, you're here for the final part, for the final step, the final thing that we're doing for this. So this is the part that I'm sure you're probably all here for, is the drama of Operation Social Justice. You're wanting to hear what kind of stuff went down, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to name any names at any stage of this, because a lot of the people that were, I think, trying to bait us into arguments, they're kind of people who thrive on the oxygen of negative attention, and I don't want to give them any more, and I also don't want you all to feel like I'm telling you to go out and find them in order to, tell them that they suck on the internet. Like, no. Even if you do manage to figure out who these people are, or even if you, you know, happen to already know who they are, just let it go. Like, that's not what any of this was about. You know, don't go telling them that they suck, because all that's going to do is just, I don't know, make them feel like they won something probably, and they didn't. So the fact that there was a bit of backlash obviously came as no surprise. I mean, we called it Operation Social Justice for a reason. It was a little bit tongue-in-cheek as this kind of like, these are the values and this is the kind of stuff that we stand for, and we're being unapologetic about it, and that was honestly the whole point. So I'm not surprised that there was backlash, because there's people who are going to look at that name and immediately feel attacked, even though we weren't actually attacking anyone. We never said anything about anybody publicly or otherwise, really. So nobody was being attacked. We never insinuated anything, and so there's that. But anyway, the fact that there was backlash and drama comes as no surprise, especially as we had what we now refer to in our house as Pingate last year. That's when we released our Yarn Pride pins. So they are enamel pins, sparkly enamel pins that are meant to be, that are kind of like, it's kind of like a craft pun, but it's also meant to be this very kind of positive, empowering, this is who I am thing for LGBTQ plus people. And it was also a charity initiative that benefited Mermaids UK, which helps trans and gender diverse youth and their families. But when we first launched the pins, there was a lot of weird backlash from people that we didn't know, who didn't follow us, who we'd never heard from before. You know, they weren't customers of ours or anything, messaging us to say, like, how dare a straight woman benefit from the queer community? And I was like, where have you come from? This is bizarre. Getting tagged in Facebook posts and in Facebook groups from people saying it was really awful that straight people were trying to profit off the queer community. And I was like, y'all, we've been married, well, this was last year, so it was like, we've been married for 6 years, like, this is not a secret. Like, it was strange. It was very bizarre, and there was a lot of backlash coming from very odd places. So it was no surprise to me that something that was intentionally a bit tongue-in-cheek would attract some backlash, when something that was meant to just be this really positive, wholesome thing attracted a lot of backlash, when we were like, oh, well, that wasn't what we intended. So while backlash itself wasn't a surprise, it was the amount of it that kind of was. So the initial post that we had about Operation Social Justice, I was keeping an eye on them. You know, I was making sure that nothing, you know, weird was said, or that, you know, whatever, like, this was meant to be a charity thing. I didn't really want people digging into, you know, whatever, old political scores to settle, so on and so forth. But they were coming in so frequently that I had to close the comments on both the original post announcing it and then the post announcing that submissions were open. I had to close comments on both of them, because there was no way I was able to keep up with how many comments were coming in. And if I went longer than maybe 10 or 15, maybe 20 minutes without checking Instagram to delete comments, I would be getting messages from people on Instagram being like, hey, you might want to know, you know, this person said such and such on this post, and, you know, it's really hurtful, and it's this and it's that. And so I was like, no, I don't have time to just sit in front of my phone all day and monitor Instagram for people making shitty comments about what's meant to be a positive charity initiative, a collaborative effort among a lot of different businesses. Like, I don't have the time for this. I don't have time for this weird, like, point scoring. No. So I ended up closing the comments on both of those. And it's the only time I've ever had to close comments on an Instagram post. Even when I've had other posts before, you know, posts about fat positivity that have attracted a few comments here and there, posts about the fact that we're gay. Like, I think we posted an anniversary picture a few years ago, maybe, that attracted some BS on it. But I've never had to close comments before, but I had to close comments for those. And it was wild, honestly. I've never had to do that before, and I was really hoping that I wouldn't have to, but people are gonna be ridiculous. Obviously, I got emails about this, but also a lot of participants got emails about this as well from customers of theirs that were basically saying, this is bullying, and I don't want you to take part in it, or I'm never going to buy from you again. And I was like, I don't really understand what part of it is bullying, because we've never mentioned anyone by name. It's just meant to be a collaborative charity effort. Nobody's bullying anyone. I'm not, nobody was saying, oh, well, we're really going to show these other people. It was just a positive thing. And so the emails from people that just heard social justice and just immediately flew into a rage were, again, like, not super surprising. Like, it wasn't surprise me that I got them. It was just the amount of them that I was like, there's a lot of you with a lot of time on your hands. And this was before a lot of places even went into lockdown, so that's not even an excuse. People just had a lot of time on their hands to go and just yell at a stranger on the internet, which is something that happens a lot nowadays. And it's like, y'all, go do something else. There was also a lot of snarky Twitter subtweets that I guess a subtweet is probably meant for people to see it. So there were a lot of snarky subtweets that I did see, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not going to engage in an argument, because that's not the point of any of this. There was also a lot of gossip in crafting Facebook groups where people didn't know that I was a member, especially in some of these larger groups where, you're not going to know who's a member and who isn't, but it was really interesting to watch people organically talk about things and then have me be like, yes, I'm in here, let me just clear that up for you. So that was interesting. I think my favorite thing was having my Instagram screenshotted and posted onto Twitter from people who've got far, far more followers than I do, saying things like, oh, she said that on Instagram that racists and homophobes aren't welcome. Well, how exclusionary of you, as like some kind of gotcha, I guess. And I was just thinking, well, it's the tolerance. It's the paradox of tolerance, the tolerance paradox, whatever you call it, where you can't be tolerant of everyone, or then you're creating a space that is intolerant of people. So if this whole thing's about social justice, of course we're not going to be like, hey, racists and homophobes, come hang out in our club. And no, like, that's putting a lot of people at risk. That's making a really unsafe area for people to be in. Like, I'm not about that life. I'm not about inviting homophobes into my life. Like, I spent a lot of time, like, getting rid of them. I'm not gonna, like, welcome them back. If they want to change their ways and, like, mend their opinions, then they can come back. But as long as they're spouting homophobic nonsense, like, no, you can stay away from me. Thank you very much. But it was the fact that it was being posted as some kind of gotcha that was just really bizarre, and it made me feel like I was, kind of down the rabbit hole a little bit. Bizarre. And this also continued for weeks. Weeks and weeks and weeks on Twitter of people posting subtweets and snarky things and screen grabbing my Instagram. It was truly bizarre. And I didn't go looking for it because it was quite stressful, but people would let me know. Hey, Ange, did you see so-and-so said such and such on Twitter? No, I hadn't seen. Hey, Ange, did you see that this person screen grabbed? No, I hadn't seen, but thank you for telling me, I guess. And once that started becoming apparent, it was like, well, that's probably where a lot of this extra backlash is coming from, or from people who aren't knitters. They're not crocheters. They are not yarnies in any way, shape, or form. They're just people who follow political pundits, really, really lowball political pundits who were talking about it and or retweeting it or whatever. And that's where a lot of it was coming from. So that, like, I don't know if that makes it better or worse that most of it wasn't coming from within the community. Better, I guess. I'm gonna talk a bit more. Honestly, a lot of the nastiest stuff that happened was on Twitter. There was snarky comments and stuff that was made on Instagram, but I was able to close. I was able to shut off commenting, and I didn't go looking around for people saying nasty things. I was just like, it's just gonna stress me out. And I don't want to engage these people in an argument, because what's that gonna do? If they've already made up their mind that a charity, a collaborative charity initiative is a bad thing, I'm probably not going to change their mind with anything I have to say. So engaging them in an argument isn't going to do anything for my mental health, and it's not going to do anything to change their mind. So, so there were tweets going around that I did see organically from people saying wild untruths, and it was bizarre to me. Like, I know that we live in this post-truth world, but it was bizarre seeing people present completely fabricated things as presenting it as truth, and me being like, what? There were tweets going around saying, oh, well, you're not allowed to participate unless you donate to Gamer Crafting's Ko-fi account, K-O-F-I, which is something that a lot of artists and creatives and educators are using to sort of generate income from their work on the internet. We don't even have a Ko-fi account, so clearly that's not true, but people are presenting it as fact. Oh, well, they say that you can't participate until you donate to their Ko-fi account. And I was like, no. There's also tweets going around from people who said, well, I applied to be a part, I submitted my name and my business name to be a part of this collaborative charity effort, but I got a personalized email from Gamer Crafting saying that I wasn't woke enough to participate, which again, somebody was presenting as fact. And I was like, because y'all, every single person who submitted their name and their business name and answered all of the questions, everybody who wanted to participate got to participate. I didn't tell a single person that they weren't allowed to participate because I was like, it's a charity initiative. If people want to raise money for a charity for people who are going to need it, I'm not going to tell them no. And if their participation in this brings light to the fact that maybe they've been hanging around some shady people, well then, that's something that they're going to have to come to terms with. But it's not my place to gatekeep who is and isn't allowed. I mean, I guess you could say that maybe it was my job as the person organizing it, but that just gets it down into semantics. And then how do you determine whether someone is or isn't woke enough and to participate in a charity initiative? I was like, that's not the wormhole that I want to travel down. Everybody who wanted to participate was allowed to participate. If you're somebody who's watching this who goes, well, I applied to participate and I never heard anything, it probably went into your spam email. I'm going to tell you that for free. I had so many issues with stuff getting caught in people's spam filters, both when I sent emails, when I was sending emails personally and when I was using an email client. Stuff was getting caught in people's spam filters, and I was getting messages from people going, hey, like, maybe I wasn't allowed to participate. And I was like, oh my God, no, I sent you 2 emails. Did you get them? And then they checked their spam folder and there it is. So nobody was told that they were not allowed to participate. It is an absolute fabrication and it has absolutely no basis in truth. But it was the fact that people were presenting this stuff as complete and absolute fact that I found really frustrating. It's something that really kind of like pings my injustice ometer in my brain. I really hate when people just out and out lie and then people believe it. It's just incredibly frustrating to me on a lot of different levels. So that was the source of quite a lot of stress in being like, I want to set people straight on this, but I don't want to engage them in an argument because that's probably what they're looking for. So then how do you end up then balancing, I want to protect my own reputation and I'm going to ignore it for the good of the collaboration, which is what I ended up doing. After things kind of started winding down, I had some people saying that I hadn't done enough. And I mean, I guess depending on your perspective, I guess maybe you think that that's true. And maybe I could have done things better. Maybe I could have been more efficient. Obviously, with the things like with the spreadsheets and emails and stuff, obviously, yes. Knowing now, I probably would do things slightly differently. However, we are still only a two woman operation. There's only 2 of us. We don't have a team. We work out of our apartment. We don't have a studio. We don't have a space for any of that kind of stuff. We don't have loads of extra time. We don't have employees that we can ask to help us out with a project of this size and magnitude. And also, we didn't ask anyone to give us anything in order to participate. We just wanted people to be a part of a collaborative community effort in order to help raise money. I dedicated a page on my website to help promote other people's businesses. I spent a lot of time helping other people promote their businesses by reposting into stories and, like I said, on Twitter and Facebook and so on and so forth. So, if you're somebody who felt I didn't do enough, then I'm sorry. I am genuinely, I'm not trying to be snarky or sarcastic. I am genuinely sorry. But I can tell you that given everything else that was going on, both with us personally, I did mention the reason behind the fuck cancer yard, behind everything that was going on with us personally, and then as COVID-19 started taking hold and causing a lot more problems for people on a global scale, I can tell you that I did do everything that I was able to do I took a lot of time away from promoting my own business and setting up things for my own business. And honestly, like, I know that this isn't super relevant and whatnot, but I'm launching a book soon, and my initial plan had been to be spending most of March working on promoting and advertising and really getting the buzz up for this book that I wrote. And like, I'm not even going to mention the name of the book because I don't want people to think that's why I made this video, because it's not. But I'm just telling you, like, that was my initial plan, and I put all of that basically to the side in order to work on this instead. So I did do the best that I could. If we were ever going to do this again, we would do things differently, and I would probably try and figure out a way that other people could maybe share the burden of everything that had to be done. Because we did get some offers from other businesses saying like, hey, like, if you need help, like, let us help. But I couldn't figure out a way to do that in a way that wouldn't inadvertently violate GDPR, which, if you're unaware, is like a European data law. That you have to be very careful with how you control or disseminate data. So I couldn't figure out a way that would be really easy to have other people help that wasn't going to also be a GDPR violation, either now or down the line, and also figuring out a way that people could help without me having to, like, I don't know, basically do it anyway. Now that I have a bit more of an idea, if we ever did it again, I had to have more of a framework, more of an idea of how I would do things. But for this time, it wasn't very feasible for somebody who didn't live in the same apartment with me, which is only one other person, to really do very much to help. So, like I said, if you feel like I could have done more, then I am sorry, genuinely. I did do the best that I could, and we did raise over $14,000. It was probably significantly more than that, but like I said, a lot of people didn't report their earnings, probably because everyone's a little bit scatterbrained with everything that's going on at the moment. So there's no shade or ill feelings there. I'm just reporting what I've got. In any case, that about wraps it up. So I've kind of told you how much we raised. I've told you the behind the scenes. I don't think I really have much else to tell you. That's it. That's all of it. I'm just, laying it on the table. If you think that we should do this again next year, drop a comment. Or if you think we shouldn't do it again next year, then drop a comment, I guess, down below. Let us know if you think that this was worthy of doing again, or whether you think, nah, once was enough, which right now I'm kind of like, once was enough, but I don't know if I'll change my mind in 6 months and forget about all of the work and stress that it was and decide to do it again. I think that if we did decide to do it again, maybe we wouldn't get the same level of backlash, because people will be like, meh, it's old hat. We've seen this before. It's no big deal. We already know that we can't stop it from happening, and that people who want to participate are going to participate anyway. So I don't know. But like I said, I'm still very much, I don't know. If we did do it again, I would change things, and I would probably ask for more help, because it was quite a lot of work and a lot of effort, and I'm tired. I'm tired, y'all. I am tired for a lot of reasons, especially now, but that definitely also made me tired, especially seeing some of this stuff late at night, and then instead of sleeping, you're just laying in bed angry all night, being like, I really wish that I could, like, address these injustices, but also I know that I shouldn't, because it's not going to be productive, and it's just going to give people what they want. Like, they're obviously baiting me for an argument. They want me to argue with them, and if I get into this, like, back and forth with arguing with people, it's just going to take away from what we're trying to achieve, so I better just keep my mouth shut, but it's really difficult. So anyway, that's my own personal struggle to deal with. Anyway, that is episode 41 or 42, whatever it is, of the Gamer Crafting Podcast. I will be back next week with, I don't know, something. I do have new yarns that I keep telling you I'm going to show you, and I haven't showed you yet, so I don't know, maybe I'll do that next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you participated in any way with Operation Social Justice, but either by buying things or by selling or raffling, then thank you, thank you, thank you. From the deep down bottom of my heart, thank you for participating. It means a lot to me that so many people were willing to put their trust in me to take part in this and jump on this bandwagon and just let it just go down this track to we didn't know where, but we collaboratively we were able to raise a lot of money for a lot of different charities around the world. And honestly, at the end of the day, I think that especially now, that's really important for people to be able to come together and feel like part of a community that is going to support them and be positive and not be exclusionary to people who are a bit different. Anyway, that's the episode. Thanks so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. Drop a comment down below. And I'll see you next week.